Hey, shalom, shalom. I want to start off by giving all praises unto Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rachaha Kwadash. I want to say double honors to our apostles who are elders who well. Blessings and salutations to you brothers out there teaching and enduring truth, sincerity. This is Rob and Moff at the Nebraska camp, just GMS Fort Nebraska, man. And as you can see in the title of the lessons called Coups d'etats and Conspiracies. As you can see, there's a lot of there's a lot going on, you know what I'm saying, dealing with Esau, and the wars and rumors of wars. And there's a lot of live action from Venezuela to Nigeria. They're shooting Christians. And I mean, they're planning on attacking Nigeria. They're planning on, going into, I think it's Norway or Normandy, not Normandy, but Norway or Poland. And Poland's getting involved, and then you got Iran with their protesters, and if you are not inclined to historical things, then you can get lost in the sauce, man, because one of the strategies of Esau is to overwhelm. And when you overwhelm, you pretty much put yourself in position to, Salaki, let me take this off, put yourself into position to pretty much distract them. It reminds me of, I was watching what's the fucking movie? Transformers, and they had the Transformer Mirage, and he pretty much turned himself into multiple vehicles, and that's how Esau does. He pumps out multiple pieces of could be truths and lies, and now it leaves you to make it out, and which is very difficult. Okay, so I want to get this precept to start off because, like I said, there's nothing new under the sun. You know what I'm saying? Which goes back to, we'll go to Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verse 9. Okay. I'm going to Ecclesiastes 1 and 9. It says the thing that have been, it is that which shall be, and that thing that have been is us. All right. That's our spirits. That's, the spirits of man. Okay, because we return to the dust, our bodies return to the dust, and our spirit returns to the Most High who gave it, and that's a circle of life that happens within that. Okay, so that thing that have been and shall be is us, and the thing that which is done is that which shall be done. All right, and that's the Lord, creating the times. But also there's things that happen, and there's things that has to happen. The Lord's word is going to come forth, right? And there is no new thing under the sun. Okay, so the things, history repeats itself, and it is helpful if you know your history, man, because if it, what I'm alluding to is I want to go into some accounts of coup d'etats that happened. And when you go into those accounts, you'll begin to realize that there's nothing different from this one to the next one, and you can readily identify it. Ain't nothing different from a quarterback, going to dealing. He throw an interception, and he look at his pad, and he see the formation, see what they did, and then you get familiar with that. You know what I'm saying? You start, getting refamiliar with the not refamiliar, but more familiar with Esau and his tactics. And that's the wiles of the devil. Many wiles of the devil. One of the many wiles of the devil that is used in a coup d'etat is one of them. Okay, and I want to get this precept. It reminds me of this. All right, because it's ultimately about resources. Okay, so when you go into Sirach chapter 10 verse 8, it says, because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another. And that's pretty much how he has gotten control of countries and nations. And he has a bunch of tactics, that he does. But damn, I'm looking for some. I had this motherfucker sitting right here. But hold on, let me look it up real quick, see if I can find it. out. Oh shit. This is it. Yeah, this is it. So wanted to show this is one of the many examples because I'm alluding to so they poisoned the wells. You know what I'm saying? You know, this one of them Jones that it goes into how you know, via Amalek were being accused of putting dead bodies in the wells for the Black Plague because that they were being persecuted and pushed to convert to Christianity and to lash out. It's speculated that they were poisoning the wells all over that area, which in the Byzantine Empire, which caused the Black Plague, which the Black Plague is what took down the Moorish Empire, which allowed for the Portuguese and Spain to rise up in power and for Rome to rise back up in power. So it has a big part to play, but the same cycle of things that was happening is that these people, I mean, it's Amalek, okay, they were coming into countries because they were getting kicked out from country to country for the same reasons of trying to subvert their country indirectly through monetary, through their banking system. And then on top of that, there was they always was trying to push the image of the beast. All right. It's just the image of the beast has manifested in Babylon. Okay. The image of the beast via democracy, their pseudoscience, the way they view genders and things like that. It's always been a battle with all these countries. And that's one of the many reasons why they were getting kicked out from country to country. You hear about Hitler burning books he was burning books about transgenderism. Like they probably try to write the Talmud back then and all kind of shit, man. If it wasn't already written, they was trying to push it in. We don't know, or I haven't done that in-depth research of a rabbit hole. But one thing I do know is that they were kicked out, countries, and ultimately they were trying to again control things indirectly. All right, like you'll have a cult of personality or a face, which are actually presidents, and they let them do all the heavy work, and then they'll go in and buy every business up, just same as Cambyses. I get not Cambyses, but one of the three heads, because you had Julius Caesar. Um, I can't think. It's early, but the one of them was pretty much the guy that was he pretty much was starting fires and create his own firefighting, to take everybody's shit, at a low price. And that ain't no different from what happened with Napoleon, and they had they said the war and who won, and then they used that propaganda to flip it and went and buy a bunch of stocks over. It's the same type of concept that's used to throw people off, man. You know what I'm saying? Or just to slack you to get the riches of the world through the sea. Okay. And whether it's through economics, through propaganda, through whatever, because it's not a coincidence that um the most mineral or resource rich countries are the poorest. Okay. And is that like that by design? All right. This is not a fluke. This is not by chance. It's not because Africans are stupid and dumb. It's not because Latin people don't know how to make a pair of jeans. It's not because you know these countries are so based in thinking that they're unable to achieve the technological advances of America. No, it's because they're being oppressed by Babylon. Okay, and one of the main tactics that they use is that say if I have my backyard is full of diamonds, what I'm saying, I don't have all I got is a shovel. Okay, and you could find that about like the book Four Quadrants. They'll tell you a basic way to run a business, right? Because you got self-employed, you got employees, you got investors, you got business owners. Esau operates as an investor, okay, and he goes to these third world countries, and in the presenting himself as an investor, okay, because Africa is not able to take their product and get it to Moscow and get it to uh, Canada and all that. And why do they need to do it? Because they have to compete with these neighboring countries that's doing it. All right. They got standing armies, they got technological advances, their economic advances, they're building streets. The world is being drunk with the wine of the wrath of Babylon, i.e., the image of the beast, that the fiat note, the chase. Okay. Every country should be able to just live how they live. Why I gotta race you to do something? You know what I'm saying? Just like Trump says, he got to race China. He got to race China. What are you racing China for? Why don't you just live and let China live how they live? All right. What are you racing to? You know what I'm saying? And but getting back to what I was saying is that these countries, this Babylon will oppress these countries and then say, hey, well, I ain't gonna say oppress them. They'll go in and say, oh, you got them diamonds. Well, I can get, I can get you some bread. For example, Patti LaBelle, perfect example. Um, she came up with the ingredients for that sweet potato pie, but that's Walmart's sweet potato pie. Patty, they made 200 mil, and Patty LaBelle got 20 mil. You know what I'm saying? So that is what's happening. So they Babylon, or it ain't even just Babylon, it's Europe. Okay, they go inside these countries and they offer them penny pinched ass deals while they squeeze and drain them. And then these countries become uh, dependent on those provisions that Babylon gives them. And then Babylon also, they'll give you bonuses and they'll help you. They'll bird feed you to keep you attached they keep you attached, stuck on the titty, to be plain about it. And when they do that, we're seeing it now, just like with Nigeria and wherever that dude Fossey, or Abraham and Fossey, they're resisting Babylon and the beast, okay, because France is involved. They're kicking out the French. That's why I said the beast with the 7 heads and the 10 horns. They're resisting them. But why all of a sudden? Because Russia's gained power, China's gained power, and they can take their resources and then let China or Russia and use them as the connector to filter their product to the whole, or facilitate their product to the whole world so they can make money. It's like I said, that there's an economic forum with the Hamite pretty much saying that they need to get tapped in with AI. They need to be tapped in with all this, like, because they're trying to keep up. All these countries, they're all doing the same shit, but they're all trying to race to be the head one, but they don't know that the Lord's going to take all this down, and Esau ain't going to let them do it, okay? And when you go into Revelations, the 18th chapter, it'll tell you, man. It tells you that they live so deliciously among them, you know what I'm saying, of her delicacies, okay? Let's see here. So once you go, I'll go to Revelation 18:7, and there's another one, 18:9, same thing. It says, how much she had glorified herself and lived deliciously, so much torment. It's like, not that one. Yeah. I'll start at 8. And it says, therefore her plague shall come in one day, death, mourning, famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire. And that she is talking about the daughter of Babylon, which is America, okay? And then that burned with fire is that lake of fire, which is going to be the thermonuclear missiles and the chariots of Yahweh Shem Yahushai that's going to pour down on this place, okay, to not only destroy the wickedness in this place, but also to destroy the image, destroy, like in Zechariah says, to burn the holes out of the mouths and the holes, holes out of the mouth and the holes out of the eyes, the things that they speak. As the scriptures say, that the devil went out to deceive the nations, and the Lord's going to stop them from deceiving the nations, man. And the most immediate way to do it is to knock them off their throne, knock them off their pedestal. Okay, it says, Getting back to it, it says, therefore shall her plagues come in one day, and those plagues are the thermonuclear missiles, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire, for strong is the Lord who judgeth her. And that's what people don't understand, that this is Yahweh Shem Shai's judgment. So there's nothing you can do. You're not going to virtue signal or white knight or whatever you want to call it to say that this is wrong. We should go about it a different way. Who's going to tell the Lord to not go about it this way? All right. And the most annoying thing, ain't nobody trying to straighten out Esau. You're just always trying to, our people always trying to have compassion with the devil, man. But going back into it, it says, and the kings of the earth, all right, the kings, that's all these presidents and rulers, czars, all these people who have what? Committed fornication and lived deliciously with her, shall bewail her and lament for her when they shall see the smoke of her burning. Because we have to understand, why is every country not doing nothing? Because they're living deliciously. And then it's really the rich. So you go in India, is really the rich that's living, what I'm saying, deliciously. But at the same time, India's been oppressed, China's been oppressed, all right, through Europe, okay, Europe and the opium, what I'm saying. Let's see here. So look it up. European and opium trafficking. So it's a lot to it. I'm not going to go into all of it, but I'm going to try to get some an ancient account, a historical account, an ancient account. All right. But it says European countries are major transit and destination points for global opium and heroin trafficking networks, which are primarily controlled by Turkish, Pakistan, and Southeast Asian organization crime groups. And this is the thing, like a lot of these crime groups, a lot of these just like in Iran, just it's historically known that, because we keep we go into Maduro, but when you go into Hugo Chavez, they try to do what they did to Maduro, they tried to do to Hugo Chavez, all right, and they paid thousands of protesters to go out there and cite violence. They even there's accounts. I'm gonna read a couple excerpts from this book here, and it'll show you how the world works, and this pretty much is a book that goes into declassified documents of from coups to medical wickedness to drug trafficking to all that, man. You know what I'm saying? And Esau pretty much has been a sword across the world, directly and indirectly. But like I was saying, they're paid protesters thousands of dollars and then have them out there doing whatever to do what. That's why you'll see certain protests and somebody they have bricks set up. Somebody just grabbed a brick and chuck it. There's another protest that recently happened. Everybody's protesting. A dude just came out, burnt the flag, and then hopped up and left. All right. There's people out there shooting civilians. The civilians or the resistance or the protesters are shooting other people out there in Iran. And it's all a setup. So Trump gets on TV. If y'all harm the citizens, all of a sudden you worry about Iranian citizens now. All of a sudden you're a humanitarian. You just watch Israel bomb hospitals and all kind of shit. But all of a sudden, I got to check Iran behind what the hell they're doing and with their country. You know what I'm saying? All of a sudden you're humanitarian. No, this is not. This is just song and dance, smoke and mirrors to ultimately push toward them trying to get global dominance. But prophetically, if you deal with Iran, you're gonna which is going to happen, you're gonna rage against the Carmanians, pursuant to Second Ezra, the 16th chapter. It ain't gonna do nothing. You can't do nothing against the truth. You can come down with great wrath, but your ass gonna come down and stumble right into prophecy. Esau. Okay, nobody can resist the will of the Heavenly Father. All right, so but like I said, they'll pay protesters. they set it up to where these people act a certain way. Trump gets on TV, say months before, if Iran does this, I'm gonna do this, and then go and pay motherfuckers to start shooting citizens, which Iran's gonna say, I'm not gonna let that happen. Hell, they've been doing so many damn coups and setups and doing that same setup of paying protesters and doing this and doing that, that this is where you get ISIS from. This is where you like those were the paid so-called protesters that was going against the Afghanis. I believe it was Afghanis, but they were paid by the CIA, and then they left them with all that shit, and then they eventually forget the guy that they ousted, and the guy dude was telling them if you leave them there, they're gonna become a nation of terrorists. Okay, man, I forget the guy's name, but I'm not going to research because it's so vague to me right now. It'd take me all day to look it up. But this is what happened, man. You know what I'm saying? And like they'll sit there and make a mess and don't clean it up. But really, why are they doing all this? For resources, for control, for oppression. All right, because they don't have the bananas that Panama. They don't have the access points that Panama has. They don't have the bananas that Guatemala has. They don't have the landscape of what Hawaii has. They don't have the because certain lands allow for certain growing conditions, and they don't have all that in where they at, especially in Europe, because Europe is really the foundation of that. Because why? They're the land of the bottomless pit. How you think they got all them resources, man? Okay, Bismarck, all these guys. This is ain't nothing is new under the sun. This is all behind mass production and mass consumption and control of everything. You know what I'm saying? And the blessing was the fatness of the earth, which goes back to the oil, but it also goes back to land. Okay, them being in all the lands, also them having control all of the resources there through what? Their blessing, which is the sword as well. Okay, which is through their thermonuclear missiles, ultimately their B-2 bombers, their air superiority, them being an eagle. Okay, and with this type of power, they can sit there and push on somebody, and you can just push to get enough room so you can sneak a liar up in there or sneak a snake up in there, so that way it's almost like we had put a door of truth down, or a door of a culture, and Esau through his military might lift that door up just a little bit to not blatantly say I'm going to war or I'm blatantly being a bully, just so you can sneak your CIA agents in there and go in there and then start your bullshit, man. So I want to read an excerpt, a couple excerpts actually, man, because this is some good information, that's out here and that's being said. I just don't want to drag it out, but gotta find it real quick. You know what I'm saying? As the scriptures say, making many books there is no end, man. You gotta filter everything through the scriptures. So just I always mention that to brothers, word to wise, because this ain't gonna get you. It just tells you what's going on. You know what I'm saying? Books like these, it just tells you what's going on, help you better explain what the scriptures is already saying. That's all it does. So because you have to know how to navigate and spit out the bones, because sometimes they have your ass believing it. You're gonna end up going in there coming out with some dumb shit if you take everything historically as law, or what somebody else wrote. Because there ain't no difference from me saying something or somebody else saying something, and they get their research and they draw their own conclusions, type of thing. Not saying we operate in the spirit of the Lord, but we talking about whatever this nigga name is. Forget the guy named Arthur Nyman. That's not him. But whatever the guy name is, forget the Arthur name. There's Noam Chomsky. That's what it is, Noam Chomsky. But getting back to it, man. There's a couple excerpts. This is an excerpt commitment to democracy. Like I said, I'm just showing y'all as a reference point. We have to show reference points because these fucking scoffers that act like we just be making shit up. Okay, it says our commitment to democracy. It says in one high level document after U.S. planners stated their view that the primary threat to the new U.S.-led world order was the third world nationalism. Okay, so once you go into nationalism, and I'll read that again because that's a um, how can I say, that's a cookie crumb that leads to, is a very, very important clue, context clue. Okay, nationalism, devotion to one's country, national spirit or aspirations, desire for national unity, independence or prosperity. Nationalist and ism. So when you go to nationalist, one devoted to his nation. Okay, so pretty much when you're doing things, the so-called MAGA movement is a nationalist mentality. That's why they call them white Christian nationalists. They're saying, "Oh, me first," and it's an excuse to be mean to other countries for them, because Esau always try to use words to justify his wickedness. All right, but when you got good nationalists that America doesn't like, is when countries like Africa says, like Nino Fossi, whatever that guy name is, Arthur Ibram. He says, we're going to kick y'all countries out. Y'all not going to get us a decent cut of this stuff because we need to take care of our country. We need to do this for our country first. And then you get people, Babylonians or generals getting on there, military generals. Yeah, they're taking their money and their gold and they're spending it on military. So they out here really trying to be, America has the largest military budget on fucking planet Earth. But this is the propaganda that they say. Because people are dumb. They don't sit there and do no research and see what the hell America's actually doing and doing behind closed doors. Okay. But we'll get back to it. It says, I read it again. It says, U.S. planners stated their view that the primary threat to the new U.S. world order was third world nationalism, sometimes called ultranationalism. Nationalistic regimes that are responsive to popular demand for immediate improvement in the low living standards of the masses and production of the domestic needs. The planners' basic goals, repeated over and over again, were to prevent such ultranationalist regimes from ever taking power, or if by some fluke they did take power, to remove them and to install governments that favor private investments of domestic and foreign capital. Pretty much, if y'all sitting here and you trying to Muammar Gaddafi, because Muammar Gaddafi worked for them niggas too. You know what I'm saying? But Muammar Gaddafi started doing too much. Same thing with Saddam Hussein. You know what I'm saying? These people, same thing with Maduro. Okay? Same thing. These guys be low-key working with these countries, working with Babylon, and when they start saying growing the conscience or deviating, you know what I'm saying? They'll put them down. But it's easy to put them down when you're hiring criminals. It's not hard till you just turn around out the blue and say, "Oh, he's a criminal. We got to get rid of him." Look at his rap sheet. You knew you was funding the dude. So his rap sheet. You got him down. You know what I'm saying? It's the same hook and line and sink that they do with celebrities. Same thing. They play along and to get along and to be having your ass doing all kind of and allowing you to do all kind of wickedness, because they like hiring they like injecting like tyrants, man. You know what I'm saying? But they won't tell nobody nothing. Let this man do all that. That's why like even people trying to say, oh, in Venezuela that the people are cheering and excited. You don't know if that's paid actors. You don't know if that they created a condition. This man could be trying to get this country out of a jam. America keep on oppressing him economically, and they're gonna blame the president. They're gonna blame him. And America's probably trying to, just like in Iran, they're trying to push feminism, and you got women out there that's been being however they whether they're paid or whether they're psyops, but they're out there masturbating and playing with themselves in front of chickens. Meanwhile, the Arab women just wanted to take off their hijab and go to school, but they trying to push. They people think that that cup is just you being able to take off your hijab and go to school, but that cup is really bringing in, you know, masturbating in front of chickens and shit, all kind of freakism. Just like it's the alphabet community. It just started off with a man wanting to be a woman and woman want to be a man. Now motherfuckers is furries and then now you got the pedos coming in and they trying to close the door. Wait. No, the door is open now. Ain't no closing this door because that's what they ultimately wanted to do because Esau's a freak. Okay. And that's the thing. We have to understand that. Understand the wiles of the devil, man. You know, never trust thy enemy. We're going to get that as well. We have to get that. We got to get that. But I want to get back into this. It says, so they install governments that's pretty much there. If like I said, Muammar Gaddafi, Syria, you know what I'm saying? Like they if you ain't with their program, they're gonna come in there, break your ass down, and take the resources. This is exactly what they did to Maduro. Okay, that man, because people try to act like it was because of drugs. And drugs was the reason to justify it. Okay, they could have been buying them drugs for the longest if they say, you know what, the deal's off. All right. Because if I sit there and get on paper and I got on paper that I'm buying $200 million, $2 million of fentanyl every month, that's not a good look. So, you know what I'm saying? Who's to say that they're not taking it? Who's to say that there isn't even fentanyl on them boats? But even if it is, who says that they ain't paying them on the table? If Europe went into and there was trafficking opium to China, getting the Chinese hooked on opium, who's to say that they ain't buying that from buying fentanyl from Venezuela? When it's a fact that Operation Fast and the Furious exists, when there was trafficking buying drugs from South America, I believe it's Mexico in exchange for guns via the CIA. Come on now, like ain't nothing new under the sun, bro. These are conspiracies ultimately to do what? To oppress these people. And long as you got tyrants and war criminals, pretty much you find a decent gang leader and then pump his ass up, put a battery in his back, economically, give him all the weapons he got and let him run amok. Long as you keep on sending me that at this price, long as you keep on sending me that resource at this price, you can do whatever you want, kicking the people's ass, right? America never say nothing. Then all of a sudden, that man want to change the deal and say, "Nah, I don't want to give up as much as this. I want to start working on my country." Oh, you want to do something for yourself? Hey, everybody, remember that war criminal? Look at it. Start showing all kind of clips. People getting mad. The citizen. Yeah, it's the same fucking circle, man. And it's ultimately what is the common denominator is what the resources. Just like they went over into Venezuela, they did all that and all that ass kicking. But what happened at the end of the day? They took that oil, and it's also speculated that they took tons, hundreds of tons of silver. Okay, they say there was a blackout, and it was like 300 and something tons of silver that was taken, and they try to say they was taking mining equipment that weighed 300 tons. Hey, salute. Y'all my shop. What's going on? Shalom, elder. Sorry, you know what I'm saying? Hey, it's late. I'm trying to pump this out there, but they have a horrible strategy, bro. Well thought, well played, and with the level of control, you control the media. You got all the money in the world. You know what I'm saying? You got guns. You know what I'm saying? Just like with the weaponry, they literally created weapons. And I think the First World War through that, and they took the guns, made the guns. I believe the story is vague to me, but they made the guns, shipped it, went over there and sold it to somebody for cheap, and took that money and then flipped it, and then because they had the guns, it created a demand, and then they sold it for and start smacking people over the head with it. So now I funded these people. They already up, but that's a play to actually get them to buy the guns, and I'm gonna sell more to them, but I'm gonna create a contract. You know what I'm saying? This is what people do not understand. You know what I'm saying? There's the rich are trying to control all the resources, and then all the underlining political leaders and high-ranking Bill Gates, they're the ones that play with all these contracts and systems. Okay, Blackwater and school books and all these contracts, and it's just hand over fist, and they're paying each other, and they're hiding it through these contracts. Okay, if I'm sitting here and I want to create weapons so I could sell it to the whole fucking world, right? I'm gonna get contracted by America and have a defense budget, but I'm a private company. Who say I can't just sneak off and go sell something to Ukraine or Russia or something like that? I'm not a government. So America could literally be at war with these people, and that same country could sell them weapons, and it's not, and nobody's gonna bat an eye at it. And this is the hand over fist shit that's going on. You know what I'm saying? Just like I said, the school system. You're literally, school was not a required thing. Okay, what happened was, they, through the Prussian school system in Prussia, Russia, Prussia, Germany, when the Germans pretty much, they was getting their ass kicked, they wanted to instill uh, patriotism into their citizens. So they used a school system, which was the beginning of programming people. That's what it wasn't to educate, because people were educated before school. Like what, niggas just started getting smart because they had public school? No, people were educated. Nigga, King Alexander the Great, King Solomon, these people knew the ABCs and their 1, 2, 3s, whatever language they spoke. So why all of a sudden we needed school? No, we never did. We educated ourselves, right? But schooling was meant to program people, and through that program, it became mandated. Once you mandate it, now you can start creating contracts. All right. So now that the government's involved and all these people got to have schools, now we need to take the taxpayer money to fund these schools. Whatever we got to fund, we got to fund books. Books. A book could be a 5 cent to make this book, right? The government would say, okay, we're going to buy that book, even though it's 5 cents to make, and we could buy it for $5. You get money. No, we're going to buy books for $30. If you go to college, you know what the fuck I'm talking about. You go there and you dealing with $300 books, $200 books, a fucking book. No, it's like that on purpose. It's a setup. They stick your ass and stick you with these classes. In order to get the certificate, you got to go to these classes. And in order to go to these classes, you got to get that book. In order to get that book is going to get you this. But don't worry, financial aid will take care of you. Good old American tax money, hand over fist. Meanwhile, you're struggling trying to fit into that. No, it's all this, the whole MOTB, it's already bubbling and formulating. And they're just trying to connect all the avenues. They're trying to connect the education. Everybody thinks the same. Everybody, that's all what sophomore means, wise fool. Everybody's connected program wise. All right. They're trying to connect language wise. This is Babylon, man. Nimrod. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about Babylon with the Persians and me, but there's also Babylon with Nimrod making that tower, bringing everybody together in confusion, man. Right? So this is the same demon that's going out. They're trying to unite religion. Oh, you can find your own avenue to God. They're trying to unite the whole entire globe, but somebody got to run it. And that's what they're trying to do. That's why they're trying to unite all the food, control all the food. Okay, they're trying to unite people through this motherfucking. Ultimately, they're going to unite your ass through the MOTB when they mark you up. All right. And that's another lesson I want to go into, is the fact that, hey, what's going to happen to those who receive the mark? I ain't going to say we don't talk about them. We talk about the mark like a motherfucker. But what happens to those who receive the mark? Because there's men out there that keep trying to tell people to do that. But I digress. I want to get back to this, and so we can, finish it on up. It's a little couple reads. It says, I'm going to jump down a paragraph. It says, the United States expect to rely on force and make alliances with the military, the least anti-American of any political group in Latin America, as the Kennedy's planners put it, so they can be relied on to crush any indigenous popular groups to get out of hand. The United States has been willing to tolerate social reforms, as in Costa Rica, for example, only when the rights of labor are suppressed and the climate for foreign investment is preserved, right? So pretty much they try to act like it's a humanitarian thing, but they'll allow people to be destroyed, hurt, killed, and all for resources. As long as you're giving them that resource, then they all good. Which reminds me how important resources are when you go into the Syrian wars. I forget the names of them in particular, but it was a Roman general, and it was during the Ptolemaic and Seleucid Empire, and they was going into Egypt, and then that Roman general stopped his ass, which is that term, the line drawn in the sand. He drew a circle around him and said, "I need an answer before you leave. Are you gonna turn around and go back home, or you want to go to war with Egypt? Because if you do that, then I'm coming." Why did Rome get involved? Because of grains. Because of grains. And when you do research on grains, and because they got to get out the modern mentality, nigga, you can go to Walmart and find that shit. But grains is a winter harvest type of food. It's something you need to make it past every fucking year. You know what I'm saying? It's just like heat in the winter for us right now. If everybody turned off the heat, that's how important grains was in that time, and even in this time to this very day. But through mass production and um, the connecting of the webs from shipping, from railroads, all this shit is all behind mass production and Esau's capitalism. All this shit, man. All this murdering, dying, and killing. They had nothing to do with communism, socialism, whatever. This shit ain't got nothing to do with Arabs and Islam and Christianity. It has nothing to do with that. It has something to do with gold, oil, uranium, opium. And that's what it's all for. And if you follow that trail, you're going to see one consistent thing: Esau, death, and resources, and distributing them. All right. Um, and like it says, what says, "Give me control of the money, and I care not who write the laws." Ultimately, gold, land, and cattle is money. So if I got control of that, be it through contracts, be it through business, it don't matter, because all y'all gonna be in my pocket. That shows you that with the when those that school, I think it was Harvard, when they was protesting against the Palestinians, and they was talking all that stuff and saying that, hey, you're not against the Palestinians, saying free Palestine. And them small hats told them ass to shut that shit down. Okay. And that school made them shut it down because it was getting funded. All right. A lot of these people getting their resources and their prestige from these small hats and other people behind the curtain. So therefore they're manipulated. They're compromised. Their integrity is. Okay. So getting back to it, man, Esau has his hand in the world. So I want to read this next excerpt, and it's called the Threat of a Good Example. And to summarize it, it's pretty much saying Esau will not allow the world to see that peace can, or a decent way to approach a situation can provide peace. Like sitting down like two civilized human beings and saying, "I respect your end, you respect my end," you shake hands, and that causes a homeostasis of people. He don't want nobody to see that. He wants you to believe that it takes force. It's only one way, and it's our way that's going to work. And if anybody start to rise and showing that their way is agreeable, then they're going to do something to counteract that, because he is the adversary, the devil that goes about to deceive the world, man. That's his job. It ain't just us, but there's a concept. He's attacking everything. He's just not attacking Israelites. He's attacking to make you think that that you got to fight people. That only his way is the only way. His science is the only science. You got to get chemotherapy. You got to do this and do that in order to uh, be of substance, or that, what I'm saying, when Dr. Sebi, or books, apothecary books, and natural remedies don't fucking work because he said so. That's the world we live in, man. You know what I'm saying? His pseudoscience, and our people get jacked up off of that. But I'm gonna read this real quick. Let's continue a little bit. It says no country is exempt from this treatment, no matter how unimportant. In fact, it's the weakest and poorest countries that often arouse the greatest hysteria. Tell me this is not a fact, right? Take Laos, right? In the 1960s, probably the poorest country in the world. Most of the people who lived there didn't even know there was a such thing called Laos. They just knew that they had a very little village that was another little village nearby. But as soon as a very low level social revolution began to develop, Washington subjected Laos to a murderous secret bombing, virtually wiping out large settled areas and operations that it conceded had nothing to do with the war the U.S. was waging in South Vietnam. So, and they're pretty much there. It's like you're fighting somebody and you just throw a punch over here and hit somebody for fucking nothing. You know what I'm saying? That's where Esau is. With him follows death. Death follows with him, man. You know what I'm saying? And he won't stop. All right. He will not leave some grapes, as the book of Obadiah says. All right. So there's no way that, look at what he's doing to with the Poland situation. Norway, they're allied with him, and he's just talking about out the blue. I'm just gonna take y'all over. You know what I'm saying? Like, just out the blue. Okay, and all this chaos that's happening. Like, watching this series Fallout, pretty good series. Y'all should check it out. But the dude said all this chaos is happening, and it looks like it's just random, but somebody's behind the wheel, and that's how it is with Esau, man. And I'm gonna read this, and then we're gonna get into some scriptures to close it out. Um, I wanted to get into the invasion of Panama, because when you get into the Maduro and the shit that's going on in Iran, it's very similar. Okay, it says the U.S. government knew that Noriega was involved in drug trafficking since at least 1972. Right? They be knowing, just like the feds. They'll do it to Jake in America. They'll know you're doing something and let you do something enough until it's time for them to do whatever they need to do to you, right? So I'm gonna continue on. It says, but he stayed. What? Slakia. Let me go back up. It says the U.S. government knew that Noriega was involved in drug trafficking since at least 1972, when the Nixon administration considered assassinating him, but he stayed on the CIA payroll. In 1983, a U.S. Senate committee concluded that Panama was a major center for the laundering of drug funds and drug trafficking. It sounds similar, right? And all of a sudden, it's like, I got a problem with this guy. You can demonize him at any moment when you feel like he's a paper plate. I need to throw him away. He's useless, and I'm gonna do what I need to do with these resources. Or if you're trying to cut them contracts off, if I got to get a new contract with Panama and I don't like the deal you trying to cut with me, something got to happen. Same thing with the oil, with Hugo Chavez. They was trying to, in that contract. I believe that contract's coming up. I don't know. Let me see. Let's see. U.S. And Esau is such, like, he uses his words. You know what I'm saying? But because they'll be like, oh, the contract ain't up, so they're not battling over that. No, the contract it's just like an NFL player, motherfucker. We have the discussion right now, and the way it's going, it looked like as America, I'm not going to get a better deal or the same deal. I'm gonna get a worse deal based off of our relations. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm gonna just go ahead and do this to y'all before we even get there. And then we go ahead and do and say, ain't about the contract, ain't even over. What says See, the U.S. Venezuela oil contract involves the U.S. taking and refining Venezuela crude oil 30 to 50 million barrels initially after recent U.S. actions in Venezuela. Look, I mean, this is what I was saying earlier. You know, they go into countries, take their resource and help them with it, right? 30 to 50 barrels, they're refining it. And, they probably smacking them over the head to do that. And then to get that oil to other countries and then they're getting probably a big ass chunk of oil for free. You know what I'm saying? Or however it's going, they're gonna slut you out economically, and people get tired of that. But how I'm gonna get these 30 to 50 million barrels off? You know what I'm saying? China, America's the plug, but Russia's got the same plug. They sending their ships. So it's not. This ain't about no drugs. This is about them trying to. No, it's a multifold benefit. You can get who's over there. Russia's ships and China's ships going off. That's a military standoff right there. Then you're taking their resources. Now you're chopping your allies' legs off. Russia need to power them jets up. You did not knock them off. Like it's a bunch of concepts that's attached to it. But it says after recent U.S. actions in Venezuela, and that's what another one thing I wanted to say, Slakia, and I'm gonna leave it. I really want to see when that contract ends. Uh, but it says, yeah, my point was that's how Chase Bank, that's how Forbes magazine, that's how Chase and the Rockefellers made their money. They made their money because there was refining oil. While everybody was chasing and doing it, they went and took that opium money and put it into refining oil and became the middleman to whatever that needs. That's a small highway. That middleman, A&R, banker, they're always in the middle doing nothing. You know what I'm saying? They just know this person, know that person, and they're gonna stop y'all from meeting up. They just a plug to everything on planet Earth. You know what I'm saying? Oh, you want bread? I know this country got all the this and that to make this product, and I know you want to buy the product. And I'm gonna make sure y'all never meet up. And if y'all do, y'all gotta do a contract with me being involved in it. That's their way, man. Same rinse, wash, and repeat. But let me get back to it. It says the U.S. government continued to value Noriega's service. In May 1986, the director of the Drug Enforcement Agency praised Noriega for his vigorous anti-drug trafficking policy. A year later, the director welcomed our close associate with Noriega, while Attorney General Edwin Meese stopped a U.S. Justice Department investigation of Noriega's criminal activities. In 1987, a Senate resolution condemning Noriega was opposed by Elliot Abrams and State Department officials. Yeah, it's just going all into it. I don't want to get to the points. Okay, it says by the mid 1980s, Noriega was guilty of these crimes. Among other things, he seems to have been dragging his feet for about helping the United States in the Contra War. You see, so he was doing all that shit, but the moment he didn't want to play ball, they rolled out the wheels. Because one thing about capitalism is that it relies on everybody being confused. If in order to control everybody, I can't. It's one person controlling a bunch of people in capitalism. You know what I'm saying? And the only way I control y'all is to keep y'all confused. That's why it's class wars. That's why it's always pushing about race race differences. Even though it is a truth about it, but there's a reason why he's not trying to kill the vibe of it and trying to go into a more of an I love you in that Barney spirit. He ain't trying to. He wanted to be everybody to be agitated, so he can. That's why there's bread and circuses. That's why there's different aspects and ways to look at life. That's why there's Republican and Democrat. They don't want people truly united. The only thing he wants them people to be united under is his rule. That's the only thing. But he doesn't have that yet, because of how the current status of the world is. You got other countries that got different cultures, and through social media, that's merging cultures. You got Chinese people doing Jake dances, which they've been doing, but everybody doing. You know what I'm saying? Everybody now act like a nigga at this point. Shit, you see enough of it on there. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's seeing everybody's business, and knowledge is running to and fro and is being increased in many ways. Okay, but I'm gonna continue on. It says, yeah, it says his independence also threatened America's interest in the Panama Canal. On January 1st, 1990, most of the administration of the canal was due to go over to Panama. In the year 2000, it goes completely to them. We had to make sure, we, meaning America, had to make sure Panama was in the hands of people we could control before that date. Since we could no longer trust Noriega to do our bidding, he had to go. Washington imposed economic sanctions that virtually destroyed the economy, the main burden falling on the poor, non-white majority. They too came to hate Noriega, you see, not least because he was responsible for economic warfare, which was illegal if anyone cares. That was cause their children to that was causing their children to starve. So pretty much America would pump money into your system, let you do all that wicked shit or do all that violence and do all them war crimes. And then when you act up, they'll cut you off. And then in that result, you've been living off their food, off their bird feeding you. Now you done built this up. This machine runs off that yearly stipend that they're giving you. This business is running off of that. You're building these streets and you're relying on that stipend, and then they just cut it off. Then everybody go to suffer. You know what I'm saying? And that stipend is pretty much you did a deal with them. I'm getting this 20 million a day, shipping this oil out. Sure, I can get 100, but I'm gonna have to, I gotta. They put you in debt, man. It lay you with thick clay. I gotta pay this thing off when I pay that off. And you just on this rat race, but you just trying to make it work. You know what I'm saying? But there's so much to it, and next thing you know, something happened, or something, earthquake, or somebody gets sick, or then it set you back magically. Esau's fucking wicked, man. He's just constant oppression to the whole world, man. You know. But continuing on, it says next, a military coup was tried but failed. Then in December in 1989, the United States celebrated the fall of the Berlin Wall and in the Cold War by invading Panama outright, killing hundreds or perhaps thousands of civilians. Though it knows a few north of Rio Grande care enough to require the restored power to rich white elite that had been displaced by the Torrijos coup just in time to ensure a compliant government for the administrative change of the canal in January 1990, as noted by the writing of European press. Throughout this process, the U.S. press followed Washington's lead. It goes in there, but it's so much BS on how they're doing it. But once you see the tactics, it's the same rinse, wash, and repeat. It's just people don't pay attention enough because they're distracted by, the C. Kirk situation or the code CVID situation, and they create people in stances. And so, just like if you're a Republican or Democrat, nigga, it's common sense or not, it's right or wrong. You know what I'm saying? You left wing, and now you can't eat sandwiches because right wing eat sandwiches and shit. That's what they make it out to be. And now you walking around can't enjoy certain things in life because left wing people do it, and you're a right winger. So now you know what I'm saying? So this is what they do to create, these idols and things for people to follow. Okay, but let's get some precepts to close it on out. Okay, so we're gonna go into Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 2 and 10. It says, "Let us oppress the poor righteous man. Let us not spare the widow, nor reverence the ancient gray hairs of the age. Let our strength be the law of justice, for that which is feeble is found to be nothing." And that, like I said, for example, they act like it's all about the people, but then when they come in and roll on, Like when they bombed and did that in Venezuela, they don't say nothing about how many people died, bro. Like that was a bomb, man. Like them people didn't know. We didn't know. I'm quite sure they didn't know that somebody was out there and there was some regular people that got hit. You know what I'm saying? And they even hit I forget whose grave site. They bombed somebody's grave site too. You know, just disrespectful, bro. You know, but then they act like, oh, uh, this drug killed 300,000 people. I forgot. Let's see here. Okay, death by fentanyl per year, right? Let's see here. I'm gonna go to. It says in 2023 there were 72,000 deaths by fentanyl, right? 72,000. That's AI overview. Okay. See here, death by alcohol, because this is what we per year. There you go per year. The numbers are staggering, but where's the outcry? It ain't about no damn fentanyl. All right. Let me see. U.S. And the numbers is ridiculous. 178,000. All right. So that's 100,000 more people that die by excessive alcohol use. All right. Let's see. The next leading cause, well, one of the next leading cause by heart failure. Heart disease causes nearly 1 million deaths annually per U.S. No outcry. Trump has the bomb Venezuela, but he cool with McDonald's. He's cool with Marlboro. He's cool with fried foods. He's cool with radiation. iPhones. He's cool with all this, but he really got to get rid of Maduro. This guy is a motherfucking menace. Don't vocab do the same thing? We're no matter what all these Israelis doing is Christians, Catholics, pedophiles, and I just got to get rid of the Hebrew Israelites, the so-called Black Hebrew Israelites. I gotta get rid of them guys. Yeah, it's the same rinse, wash, and repeat tactics. It's played out. That's why they can't fuck with us because we're operating in the spirit, and the spirit is like the wind. You can't come up with a strategy to overcome the spirit of Yahweh Shem Shai, man. Right? So that's why it's beautiful to trust in the Lord, because when he try to go high, we'd be low, man. You know? But Proverbs 4:14, it says, enter not, so like enter not to the path of the wicked, and go not in the way of an evil man, of evil men. Avoid it, pass not by it, turn from it, and pass away. For they sleep not except they have done mischief, and their sleep is taken away unless they cause some to fall. For they eat the bread of wickedness and drink the wine of violence. You know what I'm saying? Like it's in them to just the way like people do shit, but Esau's way to go about it is always going to be horrible. It's always going to be like wicked. You know what I'm saying? It's to solve a crime, to bring justice, to get food. He's always gonna do it in a left-hand way. Look at instead of going out and hunting, he created a grocery store and then took everybody's ability to serve themselves and made them all prisoners via through resources, man. You know, like damn, bro, like for what? Like you got enough to be all right, but that's not enough for Esau, man. Again, Obadiah, would you not leave some grapes? And that's why the Lord says Judah's going to be a fire, and Joseph a stubble. Matter of fact, let's get it. Let's see, Joseph flame. I said Joseph a flame. Yeah, 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 yeah. That's why. Yeah, Sirach 1:18. It says, "In the house of Jacob shall be a fire, in the house of Joseph a flame. and the house of Esau for stubble, and they shall kindle in them and devour them, and they shall not be any remaining of the house of Esau, for the Lord hath spoken of it, man. And it's in the spiritual. There's a reason why we always calling them out. You got people that call them out, but we've been calling them out since since the 80s, since the 70s, the 50s, 60s. You know what I'm saying? Jake has always been on and it's cause and effect good reasons, but everybody been getting done dirty, but they don't say nothing. They all just get lashed and whipped in private. Jake, come on, cracker, man. They be going in on in black and white, man. All right. So let's get back to it. I'm gonna get this last precept and we'll close it out. All right. And this is, man, this pretty much for me the scriptures that summarizes this whole situation, and it's happening over and over. So it's almost like we're going to be repeating ourselves because they're doing the same thing. They're doing the exact same thing they did in Venezuela. They're doing right back in Iran. They're doing the same tactic, man. It's just formatted in a different way. Over here is drugs, and over here is probably another reason, but it's the same like format. You know what I'm saying? And the format is hidden, so to the naked eye, it'll look like people getting mad, and then they're blaming it on the government. And then Esau got enough power to make you. They'll tell you whatever it is. You know, but yeah, it's like that woman that got. You got people really be arguing, man. She ran across she tried to hit him. He was in front of the car like that man ain't step in front of that car, man. He wanted to do what he wanted to do. Like it is bad. Hey, Jake been see domestic violence cases and somebody just jump out of the way. You got out of the way. All right. But nah, let me dump some off in her face real quick. And because the law says because your will was turned 2 degrees to the left, that means you was trying to hit me, was give me legal right to do that to you. All they did was paint their hair blue. You wrong in the Lord's eyes, but economically, man, you ain't been no war criminal. You know what I'm saying? But you deserve to die. But then turn around and say, "See, Kirk, y'all need to mind y'all mouths behind him." And like, come on, man, hypocrites, man. But let's get this. Sirach 12 and 10. It says, "Never trust thine enemy, like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. Though he humbleth himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him." All right, because that's and it even says when you're in affliction or you're in despair, he'll find him there first, man. So he'll come helping you, acting like he's doing you a favor, but then he's gonna use that against you. All right. And then put those tactical natures on P. Diddy and R. Kelly and say, yeah, these the type of guys that do this type of stuff. You know what I'm saying? They taught them. they're messy with it compared to Esau. It says never trust thine enemy. For like it's iron rusted, so is his wickedness. It's always going to come back. There's no like changing them. There's no like you're not going to sympathy your way through it. You're not going to do anything to make him change. Show mercy to the wicked, yet will he not learn righteousness. It says, though he humbleth himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him. And thou shalt be unto him as thou hast wiped the looking glass, and thou shalt know that his rust have not altogether been wiped away. You know what I'm saying? So don't say somebody go to dead. All it takes is a nigga dance. Yo, he's invited to the barbecue. Ass niggas, man. Like that's how easy Esau just get into our factions. You know what I'm saying? And in the way that he handled the civil rights movement and the end of is a byproduct of cause and effect of leaning into the learning the ways of the heathen and taking gifts from them. You know what I'm saying? It says, "Set him not by thee, lest when he have overthrown thee, he stand up in thy place. Neither let him sit at thy right hand, lest he seek to take thy seat. And that thou at the last remember my words and be pricked therewith." And he may not literally get in your seat, but he'll put a puppet in there. Okay, but that's been going on since King Herod, man. All right, you let him be. Damn, this was Aristobulus or Antigonus, but he pretty much he was a advisor, and he ended up getting his son on the seat, the Herodian dynasty. That's how that happened. He started out being an advisor. He was sitting by Jake and plotting, telling him, getting in his ear, you go over there, you should do this. Yeah, setting that man up. And that's how Esau always will do you. They'll do your dance, they'll do all that, and they'll put a patent on it. They'll let you make it. They'll give you money and shit to help you. You're a good person. They'll patent your shit, take it. Give you $5. Your name never known. He the most genius. He's the most influential man. You know, they do it all the time. But let's keep going for it. Say, who will pity a snake charmer when he is bitten up with a serpent, or uh, any such as come nigh a wild beast? So one that goeth to a sinner and is defiled with him in his sins, who will pity? And that goes back to, learning not the way of the heathen. If you learn the way in it and you get the results, just like the end of, but they're receiving the results of the women's liberation, and now they don't understand that they've created a culture. You created a crust that's thick as concrete that you got to bust through, and you ain't willing to lay a single sledgehammer to it. You know what I'm saying? So you stuck in this mindset. And now you just so, yeah, where all the men at? Why are they not protecting us and all that? You don't got no accountability because you've been raised that way. You've been raised that she's my queen to be all that. Yeah, you've been cultivated. Esau knew. All right. He knew if I could break down the woman, just like Adam and Eve, and then that'll give you it's just and we did the tactic. You fighting when Jake was fighting Benjamin, you set fire to their house. They look back, oh shit. You know what I'm saying? And man, you don't fight as hard because you worried about your family and shit like that. That's how it is with Jake right now. We too distracted with it with ourselves, with our homeostasis of how we're supposed to be, that we really can't unite and get together. But that's why the prophets of Israel are the ones that's able to do that. Because why? We're pilgrims to these things. We're pilgrims to resources. Money's the defense. You know what I'm saying? We didn't fall for the cup that was in Babylon's hands. And the thing is, we're immune to it. We could drink that wine and don't get drunk. You know what I'm saying? Because we use the world as not abusing it. All right. We understand, yeah, you can make money, but we don't lose, we don't get attached to it. We understand it, like we want to know we could deal with women, you know what I'm saying, or have family, but we're not attached to it. If the Lord needs us to get up and do anything, we'll get up and cast our nets and we'll follow him. And so we're not subjugated to Esau's weak ass strategies, even if we don't know about it, because that's why these type of books really don't matter. All you got to do is follow the will of the Heavenly Father, and you're gonna duck all that shit. So, at the end of the day, these guys are teaching in pretense, you know what I'm saying? Teaching for reasons of, personal gain, because they can't see it far off. They fall into the cup of the strategy. I don't want to mess my money up, so I'm not going to speak on this. I'm not going to operate like this. And they operate in the flesh. And Esau knows, oh, everybody got a price. If I could do that, and I'm going to tell you, I'm going to bird feed you. And then you start playing, I'm going to take it away. You mention something about this, I'm going to take it away. The Lord Spirit got the Lord on us to talk about this MOTB. You know what I'm saying? And Esau told you can't speak on it. And we both Israelites on YouTube. Huh? Yeah. Now you can't just let us keep doing that. So now you gotta rectify it and correct it, but you can't really address it. You know what I'm saying? Because you was told to talk about it in a certain way. That's why I think it is. Maybe I'm thinking too much. I don't know. But y'all seem compromised, you niggas. But I just wanted to go into that, man. Hopefully it was edifying. With that being said, I want to give all praises unto Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, Bahashim, Rakakadash, double honor to our apostles, our elders, rule well. Blessings, salutations to you brothers out there teaching the real truth, sincerity. Hey, shalom, shalom.